it remains the local government elections campaign. The DA enthusiastically wanting Johannesburg back, and today they're hoping that the electorate will guarantee them an outright win in the city, which previously slipped through their hands. The party is holding its rally in Eldorado Park, and our reporter Tondani Takalani is there. Tondani, very good morning to you. I understand you are with the DA leader there, John Steenhuisen, and it might be worth talking to him about this story that's emerged on Fin 24, talking about a fuel tender whose monies somehow found their way into the pockets of companies linked not just to the EFF but its leader, Julius Malema. Talk to us about that. Is he aware of such?
That's right, Tony. So the Democratic Alliance is in Eldorado Park as part of its final push ahead of the local government elections. And you'll remember that throughout their campaign, really, their key message has been clean government or clean governance, speaking widely against corruption. So as you mentioned, standing alongside me is DA leader John Steenhuisen. Incidentally, your campaign here today comes in the wake of a statement by the Hawks, not necessarily to the public, but to your city manager in Tshwane, which is still in your hands as the Democratic Alliance in government there. Basically, they're asking, they're searching for some answers, as it pertains a fuel contract that was awarded to 3 companies. Which one of them then paid 15 million to 2 other companies linked to, the senior EFF leaders. So my first question is, doesn't this then, dampen your credibility, the credibility in your message that you are going to provide clean governance, now that, one of the contracts in your run councils is under question?
No, not at all. I think the contracts predate the DA's involvement there, and I think it speaks exactly one of the reasons why we've said we will not go into coalition with the EFF, because they did exactly the same with Mr. Mashaba with the fleet tender contract in Johannesburg. The EFF are not interested in good governance. They're interested in extraction from municipalities for themselves to fund their lifestyles. And that's what you've seen here. And this is precisely why I've said very, very clearly that we will not be doing any deals with the EFF in any municipality. They do not share our values and principles. They do not share our commitment to good governance, and all they want to do is enrich themselves. And I hope the Hawks investigation continues, and I hope it gets to the bottom of exactly who's been responsible, and that can be weeded out. But it also, I think, it demonstrates why the EFF was so reluctant to allow us to get rid of certain officials in those administrations, and why they blocked our efforts to clean up and clean out in Tshwane repeatedly when we wanted to go after corrupt senior managers, corrupt people that are involved in the administration of the municipality. They were always being protected by the EFF. We were always told we would never get those reports through the council. We'd never be able to use them to help us fire people who are clearly patently unsuitable. And it's very clear now why that is the case, because these are the very people, I imagine, who've been channeling money into Mr. Malema and other slush funds, just as we saw with VBS Bank, and just as we saw under Herman Mashaba when he let the EFF run the show in Johannesburg.
The problem with that is that the EFF in Tshwane specifically is not in government. They were merely supporting you from the opposition benches. So, and the contract is said to have been awarded in 2019. In 2019, the DA was in government in Tshwane. So, do you not think it's disingenuous for you?
Because we've been trying desperately to get rid of officials in that municipality who we know are unsuitable. Mayor Randall Abrams has been trying to clean up desperately there, but because we run a minority government there, in other words, we don't have a majority in council, we need other parties to help us get reports through, to get investigations finalized, to get reports signed off by the council so that criminal charges can be laid. And that is very, very difficult to do in a city where we run a minority government. And that's precisely why we're asking the voters of Tshwane, give us a 50% plus one majority so that we can start to clean up properly there. It's very difficult to run a municipality when you've got rotten officials from previous administrations, over 20 years of previous administrations, who are used to the rent seeking that they had under the ANC, and now they've got these tender entrepreneurs in the EFF who are trying to call the shots. And they made their support for budgets and the like, and for our survival at council meetings, dependent on us dropping cases against people. And I think if you remember the Glad Africa scandal, all of that there was with the EFF behind the scenes trying to protect the very people who should be being rooted out of those municipalities. And that's exactly what we did in Cape Town when we got in with our own majority. We got rid of Mr. Wallace Mgoke. We got rid of all those people who were cutting 10% off every contract in the city. We opened up the tender process so you couldn't have this manipulation going on in smoky rooms and and dark corridors. We've opened that up, and that's exactly what we intend to do in every municipality where we get a majority.
Are you acknowledging to us, though, that you did know about this questionable tender or contract?
No, I knew nothing about it. It's the first I've heard about it was when the news broke about the Hawks investigation. But I do know that Randall Williams, our mayor there, is involved in a number of investigations into dodgy attenders and dodgy officials that have been operating there, undermining the DA administration, but also making it very, very difficult to bring clean, accountable government there. Just as Nababanga is busy with 34 cases in Nelson Mandela Bay against officials who have been implicated in dodgy tenders.
Let me ask you this then. Since you've come to know about this questionable tender, have you made efforts to speak to some of your officials there in Tshwane,
No,
and also
the
the former mayor, Solem Simanga specifically, because like I'm saying, this contract is said to have been awarded in 2019. The tender processes may have started prior to that, but you've been in government there since 2016. So have you spoken to your officials there? That's the first thing. What are they saying? And as their party, what do you plan to do about this?
No, I haven't. The news broke this morning, as it did with everybody, and I've been on my way to this event this morning, the first of our whistle-stop tours here in Joburg. But as I've said, the Hawks must do their work. They must get to the bottom of it, and people must be held accountable. And any official, any politician who's implicated, doesn't matter what colour T-shirt they wear, must be charged, and they must be held accountable. And if there are DA people that were involved, well, I'll be the first person to go to the police station and lay charges against them, as we've done in every other municipality where we govern, where people haven't lived up to our values and principles. We've got rid of them. We don't redeploy them. We didn't redeploy the mayor in George. We didn't redeploy the former mayor of the city of Cape Town. We got rid of them out of the system, because if you keep people like that in the system, they continue to corrupt it. So without fear or favour, whoever is involved in this contract must be brought to justice, and they must face the full might of the law, and they must go to jail if that's required. And there must be a civil recovery. But as I said, this is exactly why I've committed that my party will not be going into any relationship with the EFF, because of precisely this. And that's why I'm very suspicious about why Mr. Mashaba is not willing to make the same concessions. Is he going to let the EFF back in the back door in Johannesburg so that they can carry on with the fleet tenders and all the other nibbly bits that they were getting from Mr. Mashaba to keep them sweet? I think that voters should be asking themselves that question. Are you going to vote for Herman Mashaba but actually end up letting the EFF in the back door?
My last question on this contract story, before we start talking about your election campaign in general. In the interim, because what the Hawks are doing now are asking the city manager, to provide a few details, before they start their investigation, or as part of their investigation. In the interim, as the DA, what is your next step? You said you only found out about this morning, so what do you plan to do next?
We'll obviously speak to our administrators there, but I would urge that every DA person in the municipality cooperates with the Hawks. I would urge that the city administration cooperates with the Hawks. I'm very comfortable that there won't be any DA involvement there. I'm very comfortable with that fact. And so we must get to the bottom of it. There's got to be transparency and accountability, and the law enforcement agencies must act without fear or favour. And if they need to make arrests, they must make arrests. If people need to be prosecuted and jailed, they must do that. And I'll be fully supportive of that process, no matter who is involved.
Very, very briefly, the likelihood is that come Monday, you are going to be forced to negotiate with some of the political parties, the outcome being a coalition government, both in Johannesburg and Tshwane, possibly in other metros as well. Have you started having these conversations with your counterparts? Very briefly, please.
No, because we are going for majority wins in those. You don't start negotiating halfway through a soccer match about who's going to win at the end or whether you're going to have a penalty shootout. You aim to win, to get as many goals as possible. So the next 4 days are going to be spent in convincing South Africans to give us a majority in these places. So we don't have to sit with situations like we're sitting with this contract. We can get a majority government that's going to then enable clean, accountable government that gets things done and delivers for the people.
Thank you so much for your time, John Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, not necessarily having all the answers that we're looking for in the city of Tshwane. A fuel contract is in question, and the city still remains in the hands of the Democratic Alliance.
Tondani Takalani, thank you very much, asking some hard questions there of the Democratic Alliance.